Hey, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Just a Moment with Mila. I am your host, Jamila. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Today is Monday, April 25th, and I am back with a new episode. So if you guys are ready to roll, let's roll. Okay, so let me ask y'all something. We may or may not have touched on rejection in the past. I believe we have. And abandonment and feelings that, are geared towards those things. So let me ask you this question. How do you deal or cope with feeling abandoned? How do you cope with feeling unloved or unlovable or unwanted? Like nobody wants to be around you or nobody wants you to be around them. When you feel isolated, when you feel lonely, or when you feel rejected, how do you deal with that? How do you cope with that? And not just how do you deal with it, but where do those feelings come from? That is a question that I find myself asking myself um, lately. I have kind of been feeling those feelings, and I'm wondering, first of all, where they came from, and second, how to deal with it. And I think that for me, because I can only speak for myself, the main place that those feelings come from is lack of self worth, or rather, low self esteem, with the things that I've, gone through in my life with regard to my health and how that impacted me socially, and relationally, relationship wise, rather. It made me awkward. Um, it made me, it forced me to get used to, um, not um, having people close to me. It made me get used to people not really wanting to be my friend, not really wanting to hang around me. Um, and because I was kind of forced to be in that space forced me to feel like, okay, well, I don't want to ask anybody or approach anybody about, allowing me into their space or allowing me to, become a part of their lives. I don't want to ask or beg or force somebody to develop any kind of relationship with me. So what do I do in this situation? What do I do when I feel like this? And so understanding that it comes from a place of low self-esteem, it's dealing with that aspect of it. That's the beginning of coping for me, is undoing or unthinking the thoughts that caused me to have the low self-esteem in the first place, right? That can take, the rest of your life once you get a hold of it, and once you come to the place where you need to deal with it. And I'm at that place now where I know I need to undo these feelings and these thoughts. So, how do you cope? What do you do? What steps do you start to take when you get to this place of, feeling unloved or unwanted or abandoned, whatever it is? And I think the most important thing that you can do, besides acknowledging that you feel that way in the first place, is get in contact with a professional, right? Get in contact with a counselor or a therapist that you can really, um, talk these things out with, because dealing with it on your own ain't gonna work. That's just not gonna work. So you need to find somebody that you can trust, that you can divulge these feelings to in an unbiased, not non-judgmental atmosphere, and somebody who can tell you the truth in response to how you feel. So that's the first thing. I think that's the most important thing. But another thing to realize, and this can be difficult, is to understand that your feelings aren't facts, right? You can cope with feeling unloved, with really coming to grips with the fact that you're really not unloved. There are people who do love you. You just need to find those people. You need to find those people who appreciate you, who do want you around. And, if you don't know anybody, you kind of have to put yourself out there. You have to put yourself in situations and surroundings where you can meet people, and make friends with people naturally. Be in a situation where you don't have to force anything, where it just kind of happens, where it's just, natural and everything flows, if that makes sense. And then I think another thing that helps cope with these feelings is to try to get to the place where you are okay with being by yourself, with when you are okay with being alone, and knowing that being alone doesn't necessarily mean that you're lonely, or being alone doesn't necessarily mean that you're unwanted or unloved or whatever. It's just you need to be alone sometimes, and it's fine. Get to the place where being alone is not a feeling that causes you anxiety or despair or anything like that. It's okay to be alone, and it doesn't mean that you're lonely. But in the event that you are lonely, like I said before, try to go out, meet people, do an activity that you enjoy that involves other people. Um, like a paint and sip type of thing, or, something fun that you can enjoy, that you can do by yourself, but may result in you meeting people, that have similar interests, and, that might help. So, and I need to take my own advice here. Of course, I need to start doing these things on my own. So I'm really just kind of talking this out, and thinking this through with you guys, because I know I'm not the only person who has these feelings and these thoughts, and who understands that it's real, and there's nothing wrong with with these feelings, um, and that they can be dealt with, and you can overcome them. You just have to wrap your mind around the thought that you can, and it's not easy. You can't do it by yourself, but you can do it. So hopefully, me talking my feelings out and my thoughts out about this situation that I deal with personally can, help some of you who also deal with it. All right? All right. All right, guys. So thanks again for indulging and allowing me to work my feelings out. Usually, I have them somewhat worked out before I press record, but sometimes you gotta wing it, and it was very helpful. So hopefully, it helped some of you. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, you guys will have a wonderful Monday. Have a wonderful week. And I will see you guys back here next Monday. All right, take care.